My name is Ella Thompson, and I was 32 years old when I realized my relationship was already over while I was holding a plate of burnt hot dogs. It was supposed to be a relaxed afternoon, a friend's backyard barbecue, late summer, the kind of day that smells like smoke and sunscreen and beer that's been sitting in a cooler too long. I was standing by the grill, scraping blackened sausages with metal tongs, trying to salvage what I could. I remember thinking how ridiculous it was that I always volunteered for the grill, even though I hated it. That's when I heard his laugh. It wasn't just laughter, it was performative, loud, polished, the kind he used when he wanted to be seen, when he wanted to hold the room. My boyfriend Ryan was sitting at the patio table behind me with his friends, the same friends who always treated me like an accessory, something that came with the lease. I heard my name. I stopped moving. Seriously, Ryan said, his voice carrying easily across the yard. Claire gets me little surprises for no reason. She brought me soup when I was sick last month. My ex treats me better than Ella ever has. Claire, his ex-girlfriend. The words didn't land all at once. They arrived slowly, like ice water spreading through my chest. Then came the laughter. Not polite laughter, not awkward laughter. The kind that confirms consensus. The kind that says, yes, we agree, you're right. I didn't turn around. I didn't drop the tongs. I just stared at the shriveled hot dogs on the grill. And something strange happened. I felt calm. Not numb, not shocked. Clear. For months, Ryan had told me I was insecure, that I was overreacting whenever I questioned how often Claire came up in conversation, how she was always texting him, how she somehow knew details about our life that I had never told her myself. She's just my ex, he'd say. We're better as friends. You're reading into it. Standing there, smoke stinging my eyes, I finally understood something. I wasn't jealous. I was competing, and I hadn't even agreed to play. I took a breath, arranged the least burnt food onto a platter, and turned around with a perfectly normal smile. I walked to the table and set the plate down. Claire sounds like a great person, I said evenly. Silence fell hard. Ryan stiffened. His friends exchanged looks. He recovered quickly, though. He always did. She is, he said a little too fast. She's a good friend. I know, I replied, reaching for a bottle of water. I think I've been unfair. You two clearly have a strong connection. I shouldn't stand in the way of that. Something flickered across his face. Shock, relief, triumph. He thought he'd won. He thought I'd finally accepted my place. What he didn't know was that I wasn't surrendering. I was listening. Over the next few weeks, I became the perfect girlfriend. When he said he was meeting Claire for dinner, I smiled. When she texted during our movie nights, I paused the film. When she showed up unannounced at our apartment, I greeted her warmly and disappeared into the bedroom. I watched everything. I saw the way he leaned toward her, the way she touched his arm just a second too long, the way he glowed when she praised him. Claire wasn't just an ex. She was a test. And Ryan kept failing it, publicly. He loved the attention. He loved that he could have her admiration without risk. While I covered half the rent and kept our life stable, he wanted both worlds. So I decided to give them exactly that. Space, opportunity, a stage. I didn't confront, I didn't accuse, I prepared. And when Halloween invitations started circulating in the group chat, I already knew. That party would tell me everything I needed to know. I didn't change overnight in a dramatic way. There was no big speech, no teary ultimatum, no slammed doors. I just adjusted. Like someone turning the dial on a radio until the static disappears and the signal comes in sharp. After the barbecue, I became the version of myself Ryan always said he wanted. Easygoing, unbothered, secure. The funny part? It worked so well it was almost frightening. The first time I tested it was 2 days later, on a Tuesday night when we were supposed to cook dinner together. He came in late, smelling like citrus cologne and bar food. Sorry, he said, tossing his keys into the bowl by the door. Claire needed to talk. She's having a rough week. Old me would have gone quiet. Old me would have made a face without meaning to. Old me would have asked a question that sounded like a question, but was really a plea. Why does she always need you? Instead, I smiled like a woman who didn't have a single worry in the world. That's sweet of you, I said, stirring the pasta. Did she eat? You should have brought her some of this. Ryan paused, just for a second, like he was trying to figure out if I was being sarcastic. But my tone was smooth. My face was relaxed. He exhaled, and this is the key, he looked relieved. Yeah, he said. She's really going through it. I'm glad she has you, I replied, as if those words didn't taste like metal. He kissed my cheek and walked to the fridge. That was the moment I understood something important. Ryan didn't want a girlfriend with feelings. He wanted a girlfriend who functioned like furniture, supportive, reliable, quiet. So I became that. And once I did, he started moving Claire into our life like she'd always belonged there. At first, it was subtle. A text here, a call there. Then, one evening, I came home from work and found her sitting on our couch like it was her assigned seat. Her legs tucked underneath her, a mug in her hands, laughing at something Ryan had said. My food container from lunch was still in my bag, sweating condensation, but there was a half-eaten pizza box on our coffee table. Hey, Ryan said, like this was normal, like this wasn't my living room. Claire stopped by. Claire turned, her smile bright and effortless. Oh my God, Ella, she chirped. I hope you don't mind. I was in the neighborhood, and Ryan said I could hang for a bit. I heard the phrasing. Ryan said I could. Not you both, not your place. Just Ryan. But I nodded. Of course, I said, make yourself comfortable. The way Ryan's shoulders loosened, it was almost insulting. Like he'd been bracing for a fight and was thrilled he didn't have to deal with one. From that day on, Claire didn't stop by. She appeared. She materialized like a ghost that had the code to our front door. Some days, she arrived before Ryan even got home. I'd walk in and hear her voice drifting from the kitchen. Oh, I didn't know if you liked oat milk or almond milk, so I got both. And there she'd be, arranging groceries on my counter with the confidence of someone who never questioned her right to be there. Ryan would smile at her like she was a gift, and he would glance at me like he was waiting for my reaction. But I gave him none. I became a gray wall, polite, friendly, quiet. I shook Claire's hand when she offered it. I asked her how her job was. I complimented her nails. Then I retreated to my desk in our small office and closed the door. From there, I listened. I heard their inside jokes, their laughter, the way Ryan's voice softened around her, like she was a delicate thing that needed careful handling. I heard her teasing him. You're such a hero, Rye. I heard him chuckle. I heard her say my name, too, sometimes, like a polite reminder I existed. She's so chill, Claire would say loudly, like it was a compliment. And Ryan would respond, full of pride. Yeah, she's finally getting it. Finally getting it. Like I was slow. Like I was the problem for noticing what was happening right in front of my face. My calmness didn't make Claire retreat. It made her bolder, because she took my silence as permission. She started bringing him little gifts. A book by an author he loved. A weird new flavor of tea. A hoodie from some boutique store she said reminded her of him. Ryan would show me like a kid showing off trophies. Look, he'd say, grinning. She remembered I said I liked this. And he'd wait, eyes bright, hoping for me to react. So I did. I reacted perfectly. Oh, I'd say, that's thoughtful. Then I'd turn back to my laptop. Inside, though, I was taking notes. Because while Claire was buying $12 tea and $18 books, I was paying for the life Ryan lived. Half the rent, half the utilities, groceries, gas, the internet, the streaming services he pretended not to care about but used every night. And the more Claire played thoughtful, the more Ryan seemed to treat my contributions like background noise. Like being stable was somehow less romantic than being flashy. That's when I created the spreadsheet. I didn't do it out of pettiness. I did it because I needed something solid, something real, something not based on feelings or memories that could be twisted into gaslighting later. In one column, I listed every payment I made. Rent, $850. Electric, $96. Groceries, $243. Car insurance, $128. Vacation fund, $200. In the next column, I listed Claire's contributions. One book, one tea, one hoodie, a pizza she brought once that Ryan called for us, even though she ate most of it. The numbers didn't lie. They didn't laugh. They didn't tell me I was insecure. They just sat there, quiet and undeniable. And the clearer the numbers became, the clearer my plan became too. Because I wasn't going to scream. I wasn't going to beg Ryan to choose me. If someone has to choose you, the answer is already embarrassing. Instead, I decided to let him have what he wanted. Let him have Claire. Let him have the attention. Let him have the illusion that he could balance two worlds. But I would make sure one thing happened first. Everyone would see what I'd been living with. Halloween was coming. Our friend group's big annual Halloween party, the one that always turned into a social spectacle, the one where people took photos like it was a red carpet, the one where gossip survived for months afterward. It was the perfect stage. All I had to do was keep playing my role until the night arrived. Ryan was in the kitchen one evening, scrolling through his phone, when he said casually, "Hey, costume ideas?" I looked up from my laptop, already knowing where this was going. "I thought maybe we could do something as a couple," I said lightly. "Something iconic, like—" He hesitated. A tiny pause. Then he cleared his throat like he was about to deliver a harmless detail. "Actually," he said, "Claire and I had a funny idea, like angel and devil, just as a joke." My heart didn't drop. It didn't even flinch. Because the moment was so predictable, it was almost boring. Old me would have said, "Why do you need to match her?" Old me would have said, "That's weird." Old me would have watched him roll his eyes and call me controlling. But now, I smiled. "That's brilliant," I said, and I swear, Ryan's face lit up with relief. "You think?" "Totally," I replied. "You two will look great. I'll just do something simple. Vampire, maybe." Ryan laughed. "Yeah, that works." "And Claire?" When she heard about it later, she clapped her hands and squealed like she'd won something. "Oh my God, Ella, you're literally the coolest," she said. "Other girls would freak out." I stared at her for a heartbeat. Because she wasn't wrong. Other girls would freak out. Because other girls would still be fighting for a boyfriend who was already halfway out the door. But I wasn't fighting anymore. I was setting the trap. Angel and devil. Perfect. It made them a unit for the whole night. It gave them proximity, a storyline, a reason to be close in public. And Ryan, with his ego and his need to be adored, would soak it up. The closer Halloween got, the more Ryan forgot to hide anything. He'd laugh at Claire's texts right in front of me. He'd take calls in the hallway, but not far enough away for me not to hear. Claire started calling him Rye again, the nickname from when they were together. And every time, Ryan would glance at me like he was testing me. And every time, I passed. Because the truth was, my perfect girlfriend act wasn't for Ryan. It wasn't for Claire either. It was for the moment when everything snapped into focus and nobody could pretend anymore. And Halloween? Halloween was going to be the night the mask came off. By the time October rolled around, I felt like I was living in a house made of glass. Everything was visible, everything was fragile. Ryan didn't notice. He was too busy enjoying the freedom my silence gave him. He moved through our apartment like a man who believed he had finally beaten the game. Girlfriend at home. Ex-girlfriend feeding his ego. No consequences. Claire, on the other hand, noticed something. Not the plan, not the trap, but the absence of resistance. She started watching me more closely, asking questions that sounded friendly but felt like tests. "You okay with all this?" she asked one afternoon, swirling a glass of wine she'd poured herself without asking. "With what?" I replied. She smiled. "You know, me and Ryan hanging out so much." I met her gaze and smiled back. "Why wouldn't I be?" I said. "You're important to him." The word important landed heavier than she expected. She blinked, then laughed. "You're so mature," she said. I wondered if she'd still think that when everything burned. The Halloween party was hosted by Sarah and Tom, a couple we'd known for years. Their house was the kind people loved to gather in. Open floor plan, string lights everywhere, a backyard that blurred the line between indoors and out. It was also the kind of party where photos live forever. Which is why, 3 days before the event, I did something I hadn't told a single person about. I texted Tom. Me. "Hey, random question. Are you guys having a photographer at the party again this year?" Tom. "Yeah, my friend Leo's coming. Why?" I stared at the blinking cursor, my thumb steady. Me. "I'm planning something. I can't say what yet, but I need it to be a surprise. Could you make sure Leo's around our group later in the night?" There was a pause. Then, "Tom, holy sh*t, are you serious?" I closed my eyes. Me. "Please keep it quiet. I don't want anyone knowing, not even Sarah." Tom, "Say no more. I've got you." I set my phone down and sat there for a long time. There was no ring. There was no proposal. But there would be witnesses. And there would be evidence. The night of the party arrived colder than expected. One of those evenings where the air feels electric, like something is about to happen whether you're ready or not. Ryan looked incredible as the devil. Red accents, tail, horns. Confidence poured into every movement. Claire was radiant as the angel. White dress, halo, glitter dusted across her collarbones. They looked perfect together, like something out of a costume catalog. I was a vampire. Black dress, dark lipstick, fangs I didn't really need. It felt appropriate, quiet, observant, lurking. We walked into the party together, but it didn't stay that way for long. Within minutes, Ryan and Claire were circulating as a pair. People laughed at their banter, complimented their costumes, asked how long they'd planned it. I stayed back, smiling, nodding, sipping my drink slowly. Every so often, Ryan would check on me. "You good?" he'd ask. "Totally," I'd reply. And I meant it. Because the more he ignored me, the more obvious it became to everyone else. My job that night was simple. I wasn't there to confront. I wasn't there to accuse. I was there to facilitate. Every time I saw Ryan's cup running low, I refilled it. Every time Claire suggested a shot, I encouraged it. "Come on," I laughed, clinking glasses. "It's Halloween." Ryan loved it. He threw an arm around my shoulders once, sloppy and performative. "This is why I love you," he slurred slightly. "You're so chill." I smiled and stepped away. By 11 p.m., Ryan was exactly where I needed him. Loose-limbed, loud, invincible. Claire hovered close, laughing too hard at his jokes, her hand resting on his chest like it belonged there. Across the room, I saw Tom catch my eye. He gave me the smallest nod. The photographer was nearby, camera raised, pretending to capture candid moments. I turned my back on Ryan and Claire. Not dramatically, casually. I joined a group of mutual friends, the same ones who had laughed at the barbecue weeks earlier. I positioned myself so they could see Ryan and Claire clearly, but so Ryan could see me not watching. That was the final signal. He leaned in toward Claire. His hand slid lower on her back. She smiled, assuming this was just him being drunk and affectionate. Then he whispered something in her ear. I saw her smile hesitate, just for a second. Then he kissed her. Not a peck. Not a joke. A full, clumsy, unmistakable attempt. Gasps rippled through the room. Someone dropped a cup. The camera flash went off. Once. Twice. Claire shoved him hard. Her face collapsed from angelic glow into pure horror. Ryan stumbled backward, confused, blinking like he couldn't understand why gravity had betrayed him. The room froze. 20 people saw it. And I didn't move. I didn't rush in. I didn't react. Because the moment didn't belong to me anymore. It belonged to the truth. The silence after the kiss was louder than the music. It wasn't awkward party silence, the kind people nervously laugh through. This was heavier, charged, like everyone in the room was suddenly holding the same breath. Claire stood frozen for half a second, wings crooked, halo slipping down her hair. Then reality hit her all at once. "What the hell is wrong with you?" she snapped, shoving Ryan again, harder this time. Ryan staggered back, hands raised, drunk confusion written across his face. Claire, I thought..." "You thought what?" she hissed. "That I'd just let you do that?" People were staring openly now. No one pretended not to see. And then Claire's eyes started searching the room. Searching for me. She found me with my back turned, deep in conversation with Mike and 2 other friends. My posture relaxed, my drink untouched in my hand. Her expression shifted. Horror gave way to fury. She stormed across the room and grabbed my wrist, nails digging in. "Did you see that?" she demanded, voice sharp and panicked. I turned slowly, as if she'd just interrupted me mid-sentence. "See what?" I asked, genuinely calm. She stared at me like I'd slapped her. "Ryan just tried to kiss me, in front of everyone." I glanced past her at Ryan, who was now being gently pulled away by one of his friends, his devil horns crooked, his bravado evaporating. "Wow," I said, "is he really drunk?" Her mouth fell open. "Of course he's drunk," she snapped. "Where were you? You were supposed to be with us." That was it. That was the moment. I lowered my voice, but I didn't whisper. "I was giving you space," I said. "You've been with him all night." I didn't want to be the insecure girlfriend. The words hit her like a slap. Because they were her words. Her logic. Her excuse, recycled and handed back to her in front of an audience. She opened her mouth, then closed it. There was nothing she could say without exposing herself. "Let's go," she hissed, grabbing my arm again. "Now." I gently pulled away. "I'm not leaving," I said evenly. "This is Sarah and Tom's party. I don't want to make it about us." Her eyes filled with tears, real ones this time, but they only made her look more cornered. She looked around. Everyone was watching, waiting. She let go of me and turned, fleeing the party alone, white wings bouncing uselessly against her back. I stayed, not out of spite, out of certainty. People approached me carefully, like I might break. "You okay?" someone asked. I shrugged. "Looks like Ryan has some stuff to figure out with his ex." That was all it took. The narrative flipped. I wasn't jealous. I wasn't controlling. I was the calm girlfriend whose boyfriend had embarrassed himself publicly. When I finally left an hour later, my phone was vibrating nonstop. Texts from Ryan. Apologies. Explanations. Accusations. I didn't read any of them. The apartment was dark when I got home. Claire was sitting on the couch, still in costume, halo bent, wings discarded on the floor. "We need to talk," she said immediately. "Okay," I replied, turning on the light. "Let's talk." She started pacing. It was all Ryan's fault. He was disgusting. He misread things. She never led him on. Then the story shifted. I hadn't been present. I'd been distant lately. I should have stopped him. I let her talk until her voice cracked and her words ran out. Then I walked to the counter and picked up a piece of mail. The lease renewal. "I heard you at the barbecue," I said quietly. She froze. "The one where you told your friends your ex treats you better than I ever will." And they laughed. The color drained from her face. "That was a joke," she whispered. "It didn't sound like one," I said, so I decided to test it. I looked at her fully now. "I gave you everything you said you wanted, no jealousy, no boundaries, all the space in the world. And tonight, this is where it led." She shook her head slowly. You planned this. I corrected her gently. You planned on having a girlfriend who paid the bills and an ex who fed your ego. You just didn't plan on them colliding. I placed the lease on the table. It's up in 60 days. I'm not renewing. Her voice broke. Where am I supposed to go? I shrugged. Maybe Ryan has a spare room. You two seem close. I turned and walked into the bedroom, closing the door behind me. For the first time in months, the silence felt clean. The 60 days after the Halloween party didn't explode. They unraveled. Slowly, quietly, inevitably. For the first week, Claire acted like nothing had changed. She made coffee in the mornings the way she always had. 2 scoops of grounds, a splash of oat milk, mug placed carefully on the counter like a peace offering. How'd you sleep? She asked the first morning. Fine, I said. That was it. No warmth, no hostility. Just absence. I slept on the couch. Not dramatically, not as punishment. It just felt cleaner than sharing a bed with someone who had already left the relationship emotionally. The apartment became a museum of tension. No music, no TV, no laughter. Claire tried small talk like she was tossing pebbles into a deep well, waiting for a sound. None came back. The social fallout hit fast. The photographer from the party posted pictures a few days later, candid shots, group photos, and then the moment. Ryan mid-lunge, Claire mid-recoil, clear as daylight. The image spread through our friend group in hours. Ryan disappeared. He deactivated his social media, stopped answering texts, vanished from group chats like he'd never existed. Claire lost her favorite audience overnight. The friends who'd laughed at the barbecue reached out to me. Apologies, awkward explanations, a few, we didn't realize how bad it was. I accepted the apologies. I didn't rekindle the friendships. Some things, once seen, can't be unseen. Claire tried bargaining next. She wrote me a letter, 3 pages, handwritten, tear-stained in places. She admitted she'd taken me for granted. Blamed Ryan for confusing things. Promised therapy. Boundaries. Change. I read it once, then slid it back under her bedroom door with a sticky note. Too little, too late. Reality hit her the day my new furniture arrived. I'd ordered a couch and a bed frame for my new place, but since I was still on the lease, delivery came to the apartment. 2 delivery guys carried the couch inside while Claire stood in the doorway, watching her future physically detach itself from her. She didn't yell. She just looked smaller. 2 weeks before move-out, her anger peaked. She cornered me in the kitchen, voice raw, accusing me of manipulation, cruelty, of ruining her life and her most important relationship. I waited until she was done. Then I said calmly, "You humiliated me in front of your friends. You let another man orbit our relationship. You broke the trust. All I did was stop covering for you." The last week was quiet again. Boxes piled up. She couldn't afford the apartment alone, not even close. She had to call her parents, the same parents she had bragged to about her perfect city life. On move-out day, she sat on the floor among her boxes, watching me load my things. "Is there really no chance?" she asked. I shook my head. "No, you made your choice at that barbecue. It just took time for the consequences to arrive. I've been in my new place for a month now. It's quiet, peaceful, no unexpected guests, no emotional triangulation. I heard through mutuals that Claire moved back home, an hour outside the city. She and Ryan never spoke again. She tells people one misunderstanding ruined her life. She never mentions the months of disrespect that came before it. And me? I didn't win by yelling. I didn't win by revenge. I won by stepping back and letting the truth perform. She wanted to be treated better. Now she lives with the reality of what her better option really was.